I'm going to say something that my old buddy Linwood Smith, boy howdy, I'm not here to preach on Linwood because Linwood's just a sinner saved by grace, same as I am. But I'm going to tell you right now, you'll never meet a man any dumber. No, you met me. You met somebody dumber. But Linwood he has the biggest heart. And you can tell him I said this. I don't care. He has the biggest heart of any man I've ever known in my life. And I've known some people with mighty fine, big hearts. And Linwood is just one of those guys. And Linwood and I did for years the old-fashioned Georgia camp meeting. Matthew's been down there for that. Mark Fugit, who was here last night, has been down for it. My word, we've had some, for a little old camp meeting that did draw about 200 or 300 people. Gareth Reese was there with us one year. Jack Cottrell was with us one year because I still got some pictures of him in Cleveland. And you can't have a camp meeting without having old Ray Bennett once in a while. And I can't remember all the good guys we had over the years. And Linwood and I, with a guy named Ray K. Fumia, we put that thing together year after year and never had a crossword, never had a disagreement. One time, I got a little riled about something. Now, I know that I look like the most gentle and kindest and sweetest person you've ever met. Ask Matthew about that if you want to. I have 7 grandchildren. And I found out what grandchildren are. They're your reward for not killing your own children when you were raising them. And I have 7. Jonathan, I want to ask you a question. And this is family stuff, so don't worry about it. Out of 7 grandchildren, I've only had one of them pop them. Didn't whip them, just popped them. Jonathan, which one of my 7 grandchildren do you think that I had to pop? No, I slugged you. That's why he has those really pretty teeth now. Robert, who do you think I had to pop? Okay. The only one I ever popped, the only one I ever had to, was my granddaughter Mia. And she made a grave mistake. When I tell one of my kids or grandkids to do something, I ain't playing. And she was misbehaving, and I told her to stop, and she didn't stop. Well, she doesn't just stop. She said no. Tell them about saying no. Well, if I'd ever told my mother no, y'all never would have met me. Y'all, my name would have been in the records at Allman's Funeral Home in Carrollton, but you never would have met me. But I just gave her a little gentle pop on the leg, nothing bad. And of all of them, was it 5 boys and 2 girls? I've only had to pop one girl, and it was Mia. And she still loves me, and she still shares a perverted interest in serial killers with us. We were at the Alcatraz Museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, with Mark and Sherry and Narcissa and Zachary. And I think Narcissa was there, I don't remember. But anyway, I was looking at a gun that was used in the movie The Godfather, which is, to me, the greatest movie ever made. And other than the one they just got through making at the church. They made a movie at our church. And just got a call today from the guy who's a big shot over it telling me they're coming back to do more filming at our church. Listen, if you get a chance to let them film a movie here, Universal Studios, you know, they're the ones who gave us the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula, Universal Studios. Do it. Because they got more money in the banks, and they pay really good. And so, anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about now. But anyway, the Godfather, I was looking at that gun that was held in the hands, Matthew, of Clemenza in the Godfather. And I'm thinking, how did I break this glass and get to that gun? And I heard my granddaughter, Mia, the only one I ever had to pop, say, Papa, Papa, I found the serial killers. She's a sweetie. All my grandkids are sweeties, just like all of yours. If you don't think you have the greatest grandchildren in the world, something's wrong with you. You know, I know that every grandparent who lives thinks their grandchildren are the best, but me and Bob and Evelyn can tell you you're wrong. Suzanne, she hasn't cast her vote yet. Talked to Suzanne last night. Somebody, have y'all ever had a Visa card, your Visa card stole? Yep. Somebody was, MasterCard, had taken my MasterCard and it was charging an airline ticket. I don't know where to because it was only $120-something. I have no earthly idea where they were flying to. They weren't, I can't even fly from my living room to the bathroom for $120. And they won't know, would you use your charge card to charge this airline ticket for $120? And I said, no, I didn't. But I did tell them to let the people who have it keep it because since they've had it, my credit report's gone up 5 points. And they're spending a lot less money than Suzanne. It's been a pleasure to be here with y'all this week. Let's go back a few months to when my doctor, who's an elder in the Christian church, Dr. Byron Harper, I love him. He's not just a good doctor. Every time we go see him, every patient, not just me and my wife, Dr. Harper said, we're going to pray. And he'll just hold your hand, he'll pray. He's an elder in the church there, the Heritage Christian Church down there. A godly man. We talk about Jesus and the Bible. And matter of fact, a few times he's had to say, man, I am in trouble. That's why somebody else is waiting out there. But I love him. But he thought my kidneys were shutting down. Now, somebody tells me that's serious. Is that, if your kidneys shut down, it's serious. So I called Brian. I told him, well, I'm going to Kent, Indiana to a revival. When I get back, then we'll come over and we'll get this straightened out. He said, he didn't say if you get back, but he said, Tony, this is serious. He said, this ain't nothing to play with. My wife's over there, she got crying, and you know how it is when your wife gets crying. It just makes you so mad you can't see straight. Why don't you grow up? And don't go. So I called Brian, and he was so wonderful. And I hate to say anything good about Brian. Man. But boy, and Eric, no telling. But anyway, he was so kind and so, if he was acting, he ought to get an Academy Award. And y'all were beyond nice to us. You were gracious and wonderful, not only with prayers, but in other ways as well. And I want you to know I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. And then not only on top of that, we didn't cancel exactly, we rescheduled. I've been through some bumps and things over the last several months, and things weren't looking really super at times. And I just prayed this prayer. I really did. I said, Lord, just get me to Kent. Let me get through Kent, please. And then when I get home, whatever, is out there, just let it come on. I'll take it the best I can. And, you drank after a guy had COVID, so I hope you know that. So, but thank you so much. Thank you for the meals this week. I'm sorry I didn't get to see, was it Peaches? Franklin, listen, I'm kind of glad I didn't because hearing Danny talk about it scared me to death. But anyway, I enjoyed being in their home and having lunch with them. Those of you who took us to the restaurants, I got to eat some huevo rancheros today. I like huevo rancheros. That's Spanish for eggs and some other things we're not sure what it is. And I appreciate that. And all of you have been very friendly, going out of your way to just make me feel welcome and comfortable. If that was your intent, you have succeeded beyond measure. And thank you so much for that and for giving me the opportunity to be here. And I believe Mike Shannon filled in for y'all for a little while. And I'm going to be on the program with Mike in a few months. I'm looking forward to that. I've been on the program with him before. And I have the honor and the privilege most Sundays of looking out and seeing Mike's dad, Bob Shannon. You talk about intimidating. Now, I'm over it now. But when Bob Shannon first started coming to Lester Road Christian Church, I thought, I preach in front of Jesus every week. But, Bob Shannon just scared me to death. That's his dad, and he's a gracious man. He picks on Mike the way I pick on Matthew and Mark. And I think that's one reason Bob and I get along. He always has something bad to say about Mike. And I don't know. That's how people know you love them. Men do not tell other men we love them. We say, well, Harry, you fat hog, get in, come on, good to see you. You're not going to hear two women say, well, Hazel, you fat cow, come on. That's not going to work, Get in here, you dummy. But men will do that. And here's the thing. I have a friend, I've told you about Tim Hudson. I love Tim. And I love now when I say bad things, I don't mean things like death and disease. Well, kind of. But anyway, like one time Tim goes to Myrtle Beach, the dummy. And there had been a little problem in Forest Park, and his wife's name's Sheila. My daddy used to call her Cheetah. And he gave Sheila, because they didn't know this happened, he gave Sheila almost all the cash he had. And he said, when I get to Myrtle Beach, I'll go to the bank, I'll go to the ATM. And this is not going to be funny to y'all, but I know what's going to happen. And I'll get some cash at the ATM, right? He had about $25. He said, that'll get me through, and I'll get some cash first thing in the morning. It ate his ATM card. And they didn't know him from the side of the barn. He's sitting there with $25 in Myrtle Beach. Oh, that was one of the best things that ever happened. I don't know why, but when bad things happen to Lee Mason, it's just as funny. That's how you know one man knows another man loves him. If there's pain involved and your buddy laughs, you know he loves you. If he goes, are you all right? Are you okay? He don't think anything about you. But if you're bleeding and he can't talk because he's laughing so hard, he's one of the best friends you'll ever have in your life. Isn't that right, fellas? That's the truth. I got to go home tomorrow. My wife said I got to come home. The elders they're not necessarily wanting me to come home, but got to get on that plane, fly out of here in the morning. Danny's going to take me, I think. And Agnes, Angie. Angie. Well, there went next week's payday. And I don't know, Angie. I got a niece named Angie. You going with us in the morning? No. Okay. Peaches ain't going, is she? But is she? Okay. Well, I'll ride in the trunk then, because any cat named Peaches I'm scared of. He's going to take me down there. I don't particularly like flying. And I think one reason is because the first word you see when you get there is terminal. And that really puts you off. I was flying one year. I was flying from going to Lakemont Church of Christ to do a revival up there. And I was flying out of Atlanta. And you meet intelligent people in the plane. You got to remember now, the flight is nonstop from Atlanta to Pittsburgh. You heard that right, nonstop, Atlanta to Pittsburgh. I sat down. I always get an aisle seat. That way I don't have to walk over everybody if I got to go to the bathroom. Get an aisle seat. Go guy over here by the window. There's a seat in the middle that's empty. This guy looks smart enough to be an attorney or a doctor or something like that. Turns to me and says, "You going to Pittsburgh?" I said, "Boy, howdy, I hope so." Do you know something about the plane I don't know? Man, alive. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And you get up there, and you're flying at 32,000 feet, and there's nothing in the world you need more at 32,000 feet than 6 peanuts. We're flying 32,000 feet, and I'm paid, this has been quite a few years ago, and I paid $230-something for the ticket. Well, people at Lake Mount paid for it, but anyway, it's $230-something. 32,000 feet. They come around with the peanuts and the Coke. Now, when you break open those packs, they don't serve peanuts on planes anymore on account of allergies. A bunch of little sissies can't take allergies. But anyway, they come in there with the peanuts, and it looks like you got about 18 peanuts, but you don't. You've only got about 9 peanuts. They broke them in half. And then they give you about that much Diet Coke. I mean, you pay $230-something, they won't even leave you the can, you know? So I'm flying 32,000 feet with 2 ounces of Coke, 9 peanuts, and I'm thinking I paid $239 for this. And then a more sobering thought came to me. If this plane goes down, this is my last meal. There are people on death row getting strawberry shortcake and T-bone steak, and I'm going to glory on 9 peanuts and 2 ounces of Coke. And with my luck, when I get there, St. Peter will say, well, we're not going to eat till everybody else gets here. It has been a joy, and I get to see these guys. That was great. I love them. I wouldn't tell them that to their face because give them a big head. I do love those 3 men that are sitting over there, and all the other little men and all the little girls, and 2 little girls that go with them. And I'd tell you something about one of my granddaughters, but I get too emotional. Just pray for her. Her name's Narcissa. And just pray God will bring her to her senses. Will you do that, please? She needs your prayers, and she just needs to come to back. She's not a part of our family anymore. She was adopted from Nicaragua, and with a heart of gold, my son and daughter-in-law did that. And she's just left us. So would you pray for her? That's all I ask. But it's been a joy to be here and an honor. Hey, listen, isn't it an honor to serve Him? Isn't it an honor that He took sinful, wicked people like me and you and said, I love you. Just tell the world about me. The Apostle Paul writes in the 13th verse of the 4th chapter of 1 Thessalonians. But, yeah. Clint Eastwood's in the house. Clint Eastwood. Hey, Clint, stand up. Wasn't that the good, the bad, and the ugly? Listen, I like Westerns, but if y'all aren't going to the greatest Western of all time, Danny's going to disagree with me, but the greatest Western of all time, High Noon with Gary Cooper. Now let's go back to Paul. Is that okay with everybody? Paul's going up in heaven going, what happened? I heard my name. And they said, come back over here. We do not want you to be uninformed, or one translation says ignorant, brethren, about those who have fallen asleep, so that you grieve as those who... Let me read this right. But we do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, about those who are asleep, so that you will not grieve as do the rest of those with no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with Him those who have fallen asleep in Him. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain until coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord Himself will descend from heaven with a shout and with the voice of the archangel and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord. And so we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore, I love this, therefore comfort one another with these words. Now as to the times, we're in chapter 5 now. Now as unto the times and ephods, brethren, you have no need of anything to be written to you. For you yourselves know full well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While they are saying peace and safety, then destruction will come upon them suddenly, like labor pains upon a woman with child, and they will not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day would overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of day, and we are not of the night nor of darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us be alert and sober. For those who sleep do their sleeping at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we are of the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love, and a helmet of the hope of salvation. For God has not destined us for wrath, but for obtaining salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, so that wherever we are awake or asleep, we will live together with him. Therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. I am looking forward with great anticipation to the second coming of Jesus Christ. I'm looking forward to being there and hopefully with you and me and others hearing those great words, well done, thou good and faithful servant. As we bring these few meetings to an end, I want to talk to you about a message that I wrote many years ago to preach down at Pigeon Forge and called Encourage by the Blessed Hope. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the things that are going to happen when the Lord comes again. I'm not known in any circle where I'm known, and I'm not known that many circles, but in the ones I am known, I am not known as an intellect. I'm no Jack Cottrell or Johnny Presley. You're not going to read any great theological papers that I have put together. But I'm like a lot of preachers, I like to impress people. And so I thought, well, on this very first point, when I start this message, I want the very first point to have a punch to it. All right, I want a real punch. Why am I encouraged by the second coming of Jesus Christ? And I thought about it, and here's what I come up with, Brian. I'm encouraged by the second coming because we're going to get to see dead people. We're going to get to see dead people, in the right context. Somebody said to me one time, well, wouldn't you love to see your mother? And I said, no. As much as I'll wait till I get to heaven to see her. If she comes walking through that door tonight, I'm out that back door. Much as I loved her, y'all are on your own. Several years ago, I was in Macedonia, Bono, South Carolina, Macedonia Christian Church, Bono, South Carolina. That's about the size of this place here. Good old buddy of mine, Larry Bradbury, is the minister. Been the minister there nearly 50 years. He just turned 81 years old. The car I drive, if you've ever seen that old blue Mercury I drive, 2002 Mercury Marquis, that came from his mother after she passed away. The church bought it from the family and gave it to me and Suzanne as a gift because our car was giving us a lot of trouble. But Larry Bradbury is the minister there. And over the years, Larry has been nice enough to invite me to come over and preach a revival for him. And he called me up and wanted me to come over and do a weekend revival. And he said, now, on Sunday night, those of you who've ever been around South Carolina will be familiar with this expression. We're going to have the Low Country Rally. The Low Country folk are great folks and fantastic cooks. They talk that Geechee. You ever heard the Geechee dialect? They talk that Geechee dialect. He go come over here. We're going to have something together. Something like that. And you go, what? But I love them, boy. I love those folks over there. He said the Low Country Rally. Now, the Low Country Rally, all the churches, and there's not that many, but there's like 7 or 8 churches, dismiss their Sunday night service, and they all come together for the Low Country Rally on the 5th Sunday night, 4 times a year. And they have a big rally, and they have a preacher, and then when it's over, they have a meal. And everybody eats together. He said, so you're going to, the last night you're there, Sunday night of the revival, you'll be speaking at the Low Country Rally. Well, I got there Friday night. We started a little weekend revival meeting. Friday night was over. I went back over to Paulette and Larry's house. I was staying with them. And I preached 6 years in Florence, South Carolina. And Larry said to me, you know the Mims family, don't you? And I said, sure, I know the Mims family. Known them for years. He said, Miss Mims died. I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. I knew Mr. Mims had passed away. I didn't know Miss Mims died. I said, yeah, she died. He said, we were in Georgia visiting Mother, so I didn't get to go to the funeral or anything. But he said, she died. I said, well, I'm sorry. Sunday night of the rally, the place was packed. I don't like to sit up on the stage. I never have. I just don't like it. And I just rather sit out in the crowd until it's time to preach. And they came to me and Larry. We were sitting up on the front row. And they came to me, and one of the guys said, Larry, you and Tony are going to have to move up on the platform. We need these seats. The place was just filling up. There's probably 300 or 400 people there. They just kept coming in. So I'm sitting up here in the chair, minding my own business, and I look out, and guess who walked in? Miss Mims. In all her radiant glory, there was Miss Mims. After the Low Country Rally, we went back over to Larry and Paulette's house that night. We were sitting there in the den right before bedtime, and I said to Larry, I thought you told me Miss Mims died. And he said, well, somebody died. I thought it was her. I said, let me tell you something. When I saw her walk in that building, it took 5 of your deacons to hold me in that chair. We're going to get to see dead people. Paul said, hey, I don't want you to be ignorant. I don't want you to be misunderstood. I don't want you to live in the dark. You see here, let me tell you a little history. Paul came to Thessalonica, and he was preaching in Thessalonica, and some of the people got sick and tired of it, and they ran Paul out of Thessalonica. And he did not get through teaching. And apparently from what we read in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, one of the things that he was teaching about was the second coming of Christ. And he didn't get time to finish because they'd run him out of town. And news was coming to Paul that many of the people of Thessalonica were saying, what are we going to do? My mother died, my daddy died, my wife died, my husband died, my child died. They've gone on, and when the Lord comes, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to these people that have died before Jesus comes? And Paul writes to the church in Thessalonica and said, I don't want you to be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep, as you grieve as those who don't have any hope. Don't grieve over those who've fallen asleep. Sleep has always been a metaphor for death. John 11:1, Jesus said to the disciples, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. In Luke 8:52, he said to the disciples, again, this child is not dead, she is only asleep. In Acts 7:60, when Luke records what happened to Stephen, he said Stephen fell asleep. So the word sleep is used all throughout the Bible, concerning those who have died. Don't weep as those who have no hope over those who've fallen asleep. They are asleep. You know, when you go to sleep, you wake up. The older you get, the more times you wake up. You know. But you wake up. And someday those who have died and are buried are going to wake up. As a matter of fact, the Greek word that's used here for asleep is a word that we get the word cemetery from. It is defined in the Greek as a house or a place of rest. To fall asleep, that's death. A house of rest, it is a cemetery. So we could say, Paul is saying, don't be concerned about your loved ones who are out there in the cemetery. When the Lord comes, they're coming back with Him. This coming Sunday of the 13th day of March, the Melton family is going to be with us. I'm looking forward to seeing Dave and Krista and the kids. But then the 20th of March, I'll be continuing my series on heaven with a message, will we know each other in heaven? And I believe the answer to that is yes. I believe that's the whole point of what Paul's talking about. How would there be any comfort in saying those who have died are coming back with Jesus if that doesn't mean the ones you've loved and lost are coming back and you're going to know who they are? Now, I don't know what that means. We know we won't be married in heaven. Suzanne's not going to be my wife in heaven. As far as I'm concerned, we've been married 54 years. I think we've had a wonderful marriage. I love her with all my heart. And if I could be married to her throughout eternity, that'd be just fine and dandy with me. But Jesus said there is no marriage in heaven and there's no giving in marriage. Some lady said one time, well, if my husband Harold's not, if I'm not going to be married to him in heaven, I don't know that I want to go. Let me tell you, I love Suzanne with all my heart and soul, but hey, I'm going to go to heaven. Whether I'm married to her or not, I'm going to heaven. I do know this, that whatever relationship I have with her, whatever relationship I have with Matthew and Jonathan and Robert and my other grandchildren and my other son Mark, and my daughter-in-laws, whatever relationship I have on this earth, no matter how wonderful it is, it's going to be 1,000,000 times better in heaven. I don't know what it's going to be. I just know it's going to be better. And I know and I do believe that we will know each other when we get there. Now, the world doesn't believe that. I found this quote in a psychology book. This man had talked about life, and when he gets through talking about life, listen to the way he closes. This is the last sentence in the book. And Dr. Cottrell's the one that told us about this book. And let me correct myself before I tell you a lie right here in the church. I didn't own the book. I looked at the book. I've read, parts of the book. I don't have this book in my library, never have. But this is the last line in the book. And I lost my place. Isn't that great? Here it is. When once our bright light sets, there is one perpetual night through which we must sleep. Don't you know, this guy is fun at parties. Aren't you glad you don't believe that? Robert Owen, an atheist, and Alexander Campbell, for those who may not be familiar with that name, just an old-time preacher, were friends. Even though Robert Owens was an atheist, he and Campbell were friends. And they would debate each other at what is today known as Bethany College. They had debated away one morning, and they had gone home for lunch and just sat there and rest. During the day that they rest, they went to what would ultimately become known as the Campbell Cemetery. Some of you have been to Bethany. You've been to the Campbell home. You've walked up that hill. It's a steep hill to where the cemetery is. They walked up there, Mr. Owens and Preacher Campbell. As they walked out, the story goes that Robert Owens looked under a tree and saw some ox grazing under that tree, the ox that belonged to Mr. Campbell. And he called him Father Campbell. We'll debate that another time, but he said, Father Campbell, I am like those ox grazing under the tree. I have no fear of death. Alexander Campbell said, Sir, you are indeed like those ox grazing under the trees. For indeed you do have no fear of death, but neither do you have any hope in death. Wow. What a great sermon. You have no hope in death. Paul said, when you lose somebody you love, it's okay to grieve. As a matter of fact, if you didn't grieve, there would be something wrong with you. You grieve because you love. In Acts 8:2, it said, devout men buried Stephen and made great lamentation over him. Paul said that God healed Epaphroditus, and that kept Paul from suffering through a great sorrow. Paul said, don't grieve. How? As those who have no hope. Several years ago, my cousin's mother passed away. I tell this reluctantly and hope that it doesn't get out. I probably should tell it differently. My dad's family, while my mother's family were Church of Christ, Christian church people, almost all of them. And went to church and Sunday school and all that stuff. They weren't all perfect, but they did. And my dad's people did not. And I've become the minister of my dad's family. They don't have a family gathering that I don't always get asked to pray for. Now, my brother-in-law Stanley, every now and then they'll ask Stanley, but most of the time they get me. And I do 99% of the funerals in my family. My aunt had died, and I'm not God and I'm not her judge. But if the Bible is true, and I believe that it is, she died without the hope of salvation. We went to the city cemetery to bury her, do the committal service. And my cousin, who's just a few days older than me, standing there. And he put his arm around me. Dennis is a good bit taller than me. He put his arm around me and he said, I want to say something before you do, if that's okay. And I said, absolutely. And just this sad, mournful voice came out of him, and he spoke really loudly as he said, say goodbye to the sweetest woman that ever lived on the face of the earth. She's gone, and I'll never see her again. And he fell on his knees and began to weep. A few days went by. I was out in my backyard. Now at that time, I lived in the house where my son Mark and his family lived, which had been my mom and dad's house at one time. I inherited it when they died. And up here is Vicki and Stanley, my sister and brother-in-law's house, and here's just a big yard. And when Vicki wanted to come to my house, if she drove down there, she just drove across the yard. So I was out in the backyard, and I heard the car, the truck wasn't coming. Vicki pulled up in my yard. My sister Vicki pulled up in my yard, rolled down the window on the truck, and I went over to see what she wanted to say to me. And she said, wasn't that so sad the other day, what Dennis said? And I said, yes, it was. And my sister said, that's the difference that having hope makes. Our grief is different. We grieve when we lose those we love, but we do not grieve as those who have no hope. We're going to see those that we love who are in the Lord again. And when that happens, number two, there's going to be a reunion. Now, I'm just going to be honest about this. Can I be honest about this? I don't like reunions. I don't like reunions. I don't like to go to reunions. I graduated from high school in 1965. I have not been to a class reunion. I got an email from my cousin's wife on my mother's side. His name's Kenneth Bass. I got an email from his wife, Linda. Linda and I went to high school together. And since we're all getting older and putting on some age, and we, these high school reunions, we don't know. They're going to have a 75th reunion. Now, that doesn't mean it was 75 years ago we graduated high school. This is the year that everybody in our class, except Pop Wester was the only kid I went to high school with that was collecting Social Security. But the rest of us are going to turn 75 this year, so we're having the 75 anniversary, and they're trying to get an idea how many are coming. And I said, I try to say it as nice as possible, and I said, I will not be there. I don't like reunions. I'm not a big thing on family reunions. I don't know. You go and hear everybody talk about how fat you're getting, how old you're getting, all that. I'm just not a big reunion guy, but I'm going to tell you right, this is one reunion I do not want to miss. This is one family reunion I'm looking forward to. The Bible says those who are dead and gone on are going to come back with Him. Some people ask us sometime, well, where are my loved ones? Where are they at today? Well, I believe they're in paradise. I believe they're there. Brother Cockrell says paradise is under the throne of God. I believe we're disembodied spirits. We're in paradise. We're waiting for what the old-time preachers used to call the general resurrection. That's when the trumpet of the Lord blows, and the end of time, the righteous go to heaven, the wicked go to hell, and we get our new bodies. But that I don't believe that's come yet. Some do, some don't. We're not going to argue about it. It's not important, because wherever your loved ones are, whether they're in paradise or whether they've already gone to heaven, the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 5:8, to be absent from the body is what? To be present with the Lord. It's going to be a spectacular reunion. It's going to be great, because guess what? The Lord Himself will be there. He's coming. He's not sending a proxy. The angel said, "Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing into the heavens? This Jesus you've seen taken away will come again in like manner, even as you've seen Him go." It's going to be a glorious day when we see Him, as the song says, face to face. One verse of that hymn says, "Only faintly now I see Him with a darkened veil between, but a blessed day is coming when in glory I shall see." Face to face. It's going to be a reunion that starts with the appearing of Jesus Christ. It's going to be a reunion that begins with a shout. That word in 1 Thessalonians there, a shout, that Greek word is only used one time in the entire Scripture, and this is where it's used, and it means a military command given with a loud voice. And what that signifies in that loud voice is the King is coming to take His rightful place forever, to sit on His throne. It is God appearing in glory and power, and Jesus coming back to be with us. It's going to come with the voice of the archangel. Michael will give the order, "Go, prepare the way for the King." The trumpet will sound. 1 Corinthians 15:52, at the last trump. This shows all the grandeur and majesty. And then the dead in Christ will rise. The cemeteries are going to break open. And people will get put back together. I don't know how much longer I have, but my wife and I have both talked about it. And we both agreed that when the time comes, we're going to be cremated. According to a good buddy of mine, named our funeral director, Tim Parrott, the average funeral in America at minimum is $10,000. And if you add any niceties to it, you can run up a big bill. And I just can't see spending $10,000 to stick me in a hole somewhere. So I'm going to be cremated for about $1,000. And if Suzanne goes first, I'll see that she's cremated or whatever happens. I have people who have problems with that. Well, what's going to happen? What's the matter with you? What do you think about people that died thousands of years ago and they wrapped them up in a sheet and buried them out in the backyard somewhere, and they just turned to ashes, ashes to ashes, dust to dust? What about all those brave men and women that were buried in the sea because they were killed in a war? What about all those people that lived and died in the days of Moses, years before Christ even walked the face of the earth? Don't you think God is able to reach down here and put us all back together again? He put me together the first time. Do you realize that at some point in history there was no Tony Sullivan? I didn't exist. And then one day, here I am. And I got two legs and I got two arms and I got all this other stuff that all of you guys have, a heart and lungs, and there it is. It wasn't there, but God put it together. And if it's not there in eternity, God's going to put it back together. Some people say, that sounds like a horror movie. Your arms coming back and your legs coming back and your head coming back on, all those kinds. Not a horror movie. It's glorious. It's majestic. It's awe-inspiring. It's thrilling. It's supernatural. It's showing the power of God to take a body that death has decayed and rotted and done away with, and putting it back together and making it glorified and indestructible. It's showing you the power and the majesty of the God we serve. If you had been there to see God make Adam and Eve from the dirt and the rib, you would say, man, what a great God I serve. I mean, to take dirt and make a man, to take a rib and make a woman. Hey, listen, that's just a little bit of what He can do. As the old carnival barkers used to say, you ain't seen nothing yet. Then we get to go. We rise to meet Him in the air. We stand there and hear Him say, I was naked and You clothed me. I was sick and in prison and You visited me. Enter into the joys of the kingdom. Enter into the joys of my kingdom. We will be caught up in the air. Air Jordan ain't got nothing on my Jesus. I'm going to climb till I pass the sun, moon, and stars. Jupiter, Venus, Neptune, and Mars. I'm going to bid farewell to this old house of clay, and then I'll go running down the Milky White Way. That's what old George Johnson, those guys used to say. And then we're going to get to meet some good people. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be a wonderful reunion that we're going to be there. Now listen. When I got up this morning, there's 2 beds in the motel room and thank y'all for the motel. When you do what I do and travel like I do, to be able to go back and have privacy and be in a room, it's just great. But anyway, I got up this morning and I had to reach over here and I had to put my hand on the other bed and I had to get Granddaddy's body back up here. And then I kind of walked like this into the bathroom, catching on the walls. My knees hurt, my back hurt. Matter of fact, I took a hydrocodone before I came over here tonight. Ain't no telling what I'm liable to say. You're going to have a new body. No aches, no pain, no suffering. Glorified in every way. And He's going to wipe away every tear from our eye. He's going to take His mercy and grace and say, my little child, my little children, you have nothing to worry about anymore. You know, we don't need to be saying, look what the world's coming to. Nah. We need to be saying, look what's coming to the world. Finally, maybe tonight, as you've heard me speak, you've thought, well, you know, this sounds pretty good. I like that idea. When's this going to happen? I'm going to tell you right now what I know about Jesus coming again. I don't have a clue in this world. It could be tonight. It could be another 10,000 years. I don't know. And let me tell you, anybody that tells you they do, run away from them, though the lightning hits them. Jesus said He didn't even know. For that day He said, no man knoweth the day nor the hour, only the Father in heaven knows. Now, did He find out when He gets back to heaven? I have a suspicion that He did, but I can't prove that. I just know that for whatever reason, when He was on this earth, He said, I don't even know. And this is my personal opinion, but I think it's the height of arrogance, and I think it's blasphemy for a human being to claim to have knowledge that not even Jesus Christ, when He was on this earth, was privy to. I don't know when it's going to happen. No one knows the day nor the hour, but we are destined to have some good things. We, Paul said in this text, walk in the light. That day when it comes should catch us and will catch us by surprise, but it should not catch us unexpected. We know it's going to happen, and we need to be ready for that day. Again, though it will catch us by surprise, dear heart, do not let it catch you unprepared. I heard a story told about an old preacher that was sitting in the back of the church, and the preacher was preaching on the second coming of Jesus. And all of a sudden the old preacher jumped up and he started out of the door. And the young preacher said, "Brother Barker, where are you going?" And Brother Barker replied, "If judgment is coming, let me be found doing my work." And he is coming. In power and glory, with a shout and the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet of God, those who are in Christ. And those who are in Christ will come with him. And those on this earth who are in Christ will rise to meet him in the air. You know, on that day, I have a lot of loved ones in heaven. I have friends in heaven, family in heaven. And on that day when that sky bursts asunder, if I'm alive and I look up into heaven and see him coming, I don't think I'm going to say, look, there's my mom. Look, there's my dad. Look, there's my friend Jay Romans. Look, there's Brother Dean Mills. Look, there's my granddaddy Bass. I think I'm going to say, look, it's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He's coming, and he's coming for me. Thank you for 4 or 5 wonderful days. May God bless you.